Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to RobMotive. You know, it's another freezing day outside, so it's a great day to talk about these. And these are the 5 most horrible Toyota Tacoma mods that I've ever done or had done. Now, I'm talking about difficulty and fear factor that you might screw it up and just ruin the truck. So let's get into it. Number 1, the Highline front bumper. Now, there's a few reasons for this, and let me preface this video by stating that I'm not saying these are bad mods. They're just mods that are potentially horrible to do. The Highline front bumper, there was no pattern with it. There's directions on how you have to cut the section of the front bumper off, but you know, once you cut it off, it's cut off. You can't go back. Always better, of course, to go a little bit on the conservative side. You can always trim more off, but you can't add it back. It would be great if that kit actually came with some sort of pattern so you could line it up. Cutting it was no joy either. It's plastic, so of course you're using a high-speed tool in my case, and it wants to kind of burn and melt as you go. That was kind of a drag. Lifting it, if you're doing it by yourself, that bumper is kind of heavy. As a matter of fact, it's very heavy. So when you're out there trying to lift it up to put it over those bolts that you're trying to put it on with, you have to be careful that you don't slam into the sides of your truck. You know, you get that cut done perfectly and then ruin what's left by not marring it or nicking it up with the bumper itself. It was a pretty horrible mod to do. Great product, love the finished look of it and all, but not much fun. Number 2, the OEM roof rack. I'm not talking about the Prinsu roof rack. That one worked perfectly. I'm talking about the OEM roof rack. You know, there were a couple of problems with that. The holes that they have in the rack to tighten it down to the existing threaded holes on the top of the Tacoma did not match up. I actually had to enlarge one of the holes on the roof rack itself, and then you start to worry, am I gonna make it too big? Is the bolt gonna pop through and now it's just loose up there? Should have been that way. This is an OEM part. It should fit perfectly. Of course, then you have to worry about water getting inside. You know, it has the holes there, and if you don't seal them properly, and I don't think you can use too much silicone, make sure that you seal those holes. And really, that's true no matter which rack you're going with, whether it's Prinsu or OEM or any of the many others out there. Make sure you get those holes sealed. Lastly, it didn't really fit the truck. You know, for a short period of time, Toyota moved that shark fin antenna for the satellite radio. Maybe it's for the whole radio system, but they moved it forward. And when they did that, they didn't allow for the roof rack to open the way it's supposed to. You know, it has those bars across the top that pop up and then go over and push down. It would actually hit that shark fin antenna. Now, you can use the second hole that's in there, really not the way it's supposed to be, but it did not fit properly. By the way, Toyota did change that, I think about halfway through 2020 or so. They actually moved it back so that their own OEM roof rack would actually fit. Number 3, and this is completely my fault, I admit it, the aux beam fog lights. You know, I went with an amber fog light. You can go clear. They come with 2 different lenses. You pick what you want. But I put these fog lights in, and it's tough enough to reach in there and get everything where you need to be anyway. It's a real confined space. But when I put them in, they didn't line up right. They left a big gap. They didn't fit in the hole properly. Thankfully, a subscriber to the channel set me straight. He told me, and he actually even sent me a video, that you had to turn that cover a little bit, and it doesn't look right when you're just sitting there looking at it outside of the truck. But you had to turn that little cover a little bit, and it's adjustable. It just screws on so that when you put it in the hole, it fits angularly, properly, in the hole for the Tacoma, and it looks perfect. I actually installed it incorrectly. I had it on the truck. I got on here. I was admittedly kind of dogging the product a little bit, and I was wrong, and I admitted that when I went back and fixed it. Again, this was my fault. But that was a horrible mod to install because I simply didn't do it right. I will say the instructions could have been a little bit better. They might have said, hey, turn it this way so that it fits properly in the hole, because honestly, it will fit right or wrong. So you don't really know till you get it done unless you know up front. Number 4, the front lift. You know, I had a front lift, and this is one that I did not do myself, but I had a front lift put on the truck, and all it is adjustable shocks. They're the Bilstein adjustables. I had it adjusted to level out the truck, right? The lift was fine. It looks fine. Everything was great until I got the truck home. I was driving it, and when I would go over bumps, I would hear a noise indicative to something bouncing around in the truck. Seemed to be coming from the front end, and then I finally narrowed it down to the passenger front. So luckily for me, I had the truck up on the lift back there. I was just nosing around under there, seeing if I could see anything obvious. And I happened to notice that one of the bolts on the brake calipers was backed out. It was sticking out further than the other ones. So it dawned on me, of course, that, well, maybe it's not tight. And sure enough, it wasn't. Now, what I think happened is the folks that installed the lift took the brake caliper off to give themselves more clearance to be able to put the shock in. I think that's pretty common. I've seen other shops do that. But when they put it back on, they did not tighten it down. That was horrible. That was a horrible mod for me to have to go through. And I will say, even when I talked to the shop, they were a little unclear as to what could possibly be wrong. You would think after doing enough lifts, they would know what was going on. But anyway, I discovered it. I tightened it. I didn't have to take it back. It's just unfortunate that it happened. Number 5, a more recent mod, something I just did. I'm not sure if the video has even come out on it yet, so I might be letting you guys know something a little early. But the front-facing camera. I put an anytime backup camera in my Toyota Tacoma recently, and part of that is putting a camera on the front, because my SR5 does not come with a camera. Now, I do have the OEM TRD Pro grill, the Heritage grill, whatever you want to call it, on it. And when that grill came, it comes with a hole for the camera. But what I discovered is even when you have the right bracket, which I did buy, there's a little bracket behind there that the camera fits in. The aftermarket cameras are configured differently. They don't fit. So I got all the wiring and everything ran and done and all that, and then went to hook up the camera and discovered this. So then you go into panic mode, right? It's like I got all this done. It took a little bit of time. The mod itself is not complicated. Matter of fact, it's pretty easy. So I had to mount the camera down lower, actually drill a hole up through the grill, which you cannot see, and it sits right at the top in front of the TSS sensor cover, that little plate or plastic piece that protects the TSS sensor. My concern there was in putting it right up there, I was going to catch it with the TSS sensor. In other words, it would see it and give me error messages that something was in front of the truck all the time. Fortunately, that did not happen. I'm not getting any error messages, and it actually looks pretty good sitting on there. The only other thing I have to deal with is this open hole now that sits at the top. It's not a big deal. Most people probably wouldn't know what it is, but I do. So now I'm going to have to do something with that. I'll probably just put some kind of a cover or something over it. Anyway, those are the 5 most horrible Toyota Tacoma mods that I've ever done, or in case of the lift had done. Leave a comment. Let me know. What's the most horrible Tacoma mod you've ever done? I'd be curious to know. Also, real quick, I do have 2 additional channels. Mod Driven, all about the Honda Civic, and RobMotive JT, all about the Jeep Gladiator. Check them out, and if you're interested, why wouldn't you subscribe? Matter of fact, go ahead and smash the subscribe button here too. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.